Welcome to this explainer. Today we are going to unpack the sheer, mind-boggling scale of human history layered across the Anatolian Peninsula. We're talking about a continuous saga that spans literally thousands of years, and honestly, it's going to fundamentally transform what you thought you knew about the ancient world. So if you've ever wondered where the building blocks of our modern society actually come from, well, you're in the exact right place.
Before we even get started, ask yourself this kind of wowed question. What on earth connects the world's oldest bronze swords to an Ottoman mosque that birds physically refuse to land on? The answer isn't magic, right? It's thousands of years of continuous, groundbreaking, and heavily layered innovation right there on a single stretch of land. Today, we're exploring exactly how humanity learned to build, organize, heal, and worship.
We've got a lot of fascinating ground to cover today. We'll be hitting 6 key eras. 1. Neolithic and Bronze Age mysteries. 2. Ancient cities and classical life. 3. Monumental tombs and the cult of death. 4. Science, language, and geography. 5. Early Christian architecture. And finally, 6. Seljuk and Ottoman masterpieces.
Starting with Section 1, Neolithic and Bronze Age mysteries. Let's just go right back to the very beginning and focus on the raw, visceral, and often deeply mysterious practices of these super early eras.
Think of this as an immense journey. It really anchors us. We're starting way back in an era where humanity was literally just figuring out what it meant to form permanent settlements. And we're going to follow that evolutionary line all the way to massive, complex, globe-spanning empires. Let's see how this incredible story begins.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Our first major stop is the Neolithic period, featuring something archaeologists call the skull cult. Found around ancient sites like Chayunu and the famous Göbekli Tepe, this was a practice where the skulls of the dead were actually separated from their bodies and then meticulously coated in plaster. I know, it sounds pretty intense to modern ears, but it reveals just how deeply early humans revered and physically preserved the memory of their ancestors. It was essentially their early attempt to keep the dead living, right there among them.
And as society leveled up, so did their tools and their furnishings. Anatolia is actually home to some massive global firsts. Take Arslantepe and Malatya, for instance. Here, we see the world's very first mud brick palace, but also the oldest known bronze swords from the early Bronze Age. This was a profound shift in how humans handled conflict. Then, you jump to the Iron Age at the Tumulus in Gordion, and we find the world's oldest wooden tables. So we literally went from plastering ancestral skulls to crafting the first weapons of war and the earliest domestic furniture.
Moving right along to Section 2, Ancient Cities and Classical Life. Entering the classical era, humanity's focus shifts from mere survival to the invention of sophisticated, highly organized urban planning.
If you've ever navigated the grid streets of a modern metropolis, think New York or Chicago, you actually have these ancient planners to thank. I mean, they essentially invented the organized city block. The Hippodamus plan used streets intersecting at perfect 90-degree angles, which you can still see beautifully preserved in the ancient city of Priene. And then the Romans took this a step further, with a grid structured around 2 massive, intersecting main avenues, the north-south Cardo Maximus and the east-west Decumanus Maximus. This wasn't just about getting around easier, it was about imposing real order on human civilization.
Beyond those highly organized grid streets, massive hubs started popping up as capitals of commerce and politics. Patara is a fantastic example. As the capital of the Lycian League, it was the largest ancient port city in its entire region. It boasted a prominent ancient parliament building and a legendary lighthouse. Patara absolutely defined classical coastal life, blending intense democratic debate with the buzzing, non-stop energy of global maritime trade. Now, what's really interesting is how classical civic life was essentially divided into 2 distinct halves. On the one hand, you had the Bouleuterion. This was the heavyweight political arena, the city council building where all the municipal decisions were hashed out through democratic debate. But right alongside it, you had the Prytaneon. This was the spiritual and administrative heart of the city. It served as a sacred headquarters where the eternal fire of the community was kept burning at all times. Politics and spirituality functioning completely side by side. Section 3. Monumental Tombs and Cult of Death. From the bustling, grid-aligned streets of everyday life, our explainer now takes a turn to look at how these classical societies monumentalized death.
The concept of the Hieroon is absolutely fascinating. A Hieroon wasn't just a simple grave out in a cemetery. It was a monumental tomb or a sacred space placed super prominently right within the city walls. Dedicated to a city founder or a revered hero, it was essentially a powerful piece of architectural propaganda. It was carefully designed to cement a hero's legacy directly into the daily lives of the city's inhabitants, basically ensuring they never forgot exactly who built their world. And when we talk about legacy, history loves a good plot twist, doesn't it? The Alexander sarcophagus, found in Sidon, is easily one of history's most famous artifacts. It prominently features these stunning reliefs of Alexander the Great in the heat of battle. But here is the catch. It's basically ancient clickbait. Alexander is not buried in it. It actually belonged to a completely different ruler, King Abdolonymus. He basically just leveraged Alexander's famous brand to make his own resting place look infinitely more prestigious.
It's truly amazing to see the diverse artistic devotion these cultures gave to the afterlife. You have the deeply emotional sarcophagus of the Weeping Women, which features 18 distinctly carved figures in a state of mourning. Then we see architectural elements like the acrotere, these beautiful ornaments placed on temple corners just to draw the eye up to the heavens. And you absolutely can't ignore the Gimli bronze plates from Hakkari. Those showcase the absolute peak of Urartian metalwork, outfitting the dead with unparalleled craftsmanship for their final journey.
Section 4. Science, Language, and Geography. While the artists and architects were busy sculpting tombs, Anatolia's brilliant minds were simultaneously looking outward, mapping out the physical world, decoding ancient languages, and pioneering modern medicine.
Now, you've likely heard of the Rosetta Stone, which unlocked all the secrets of ancient Egypt. Well, Anatolia has its very own equivalent, the Kara Tepe bilingual inscription. Dating from the late Hittite city-states, features text in both Phoenician and Hittite hieroglyphs. Because scholars already understood Phoenician, this exact stone served as the crucial key that finally unlocked the Hittite language for the modern world. It quite literally gave us back the voices of an entire lost empire.
And honestly, we owe so much of our foundational modern knowledge to just a few specific scholars. Strabo of Amasia was antiquity's first true geographer. He meticulously documented the known world in his massive 17-volume work. And in the realm of health, you've got absolute giants like Galen of Pergamum and Hippocrates. These men observed, recorded, and healed across the Anatolian landscape, setting the ethical and scientific baselines for the medicine that we still rely on today.
Section 5. Early Christian Architecture. As the centuries turned and empires transitioned, the focus of monumental architecture shifted quite dramatically. The energy moved away from civic councils and individual heroic tombs towards grand, heavenly spaces designed for congregation. The really crucial takeaway here is that this exact structural blueprint became the architectural DNA for almost every major Christian church built after it. Early Christians adopted the Roman rectangular basilica plan. You walk into the narthex at the entrance, which leads you right into the main central nave. The transept crosses that nave to create a sacred cross shape, deliberately pulling your eye toward the apse, which is that semicircular altar at the very end. This structure was an absolute masterclass in guiding human attention straight toward the divine.
Whether they were building apostolions, which are these closed cross-plan buildings designed to honor the 12 apostles and house the tombs of emperors, or carving entire religious complexes straight into the cliffs, these architects totally pushed the boundaries. Just look at the Alahan Monastery in Mersin. It is so breathtakingly engineered into that difficult steep terrain that historians literally refer to it as the Hagia Sophia of the mountains. It was a physical, monumental reflection of a soaring, unyielding faith.
Section 6. Seljuk and Ottoman Masterpieces. Finally, we arrive in the Middle Ages, witnessing the breathtaking structural engineering and artistic nuance of the Seljuk and Ottoman empires.
Notice how dramatically the materials and styles shift in this era. We move from heavy stone to the delicate, gravity-defying wooden pillars of UNESCO-recognized mosques in places like Konya and Afyon. Then, the Seljuks introduced these magnificent, vibrant tile mosaics, which are perfectly showcased in the Serçeli Medresa. And ultimately, we reach the sheer imperial scale of the Selatin mosques. These were massive, multi-minaret complexes commissioned directly by Ottoman sultans to project both their deep religious devotion and their absolute earthly power.
To truly highlight the absolute genius of this era, consider the work of the legendary Ottoman architect Mimar Sinan. He built the Şemsi Paşa Mosque in Üsküdar, right on the edge of the water. But he didn't just build a beautiful structure, he actually studied the environment. He constructed it precisely where harsh coastal winds intersect. Because of these specific crosswinds, it is naturally engineered so that birds physically cannot land on its dome or minaret. That's why it holds the legendary nickname, the Bird-Unfriendly Mosque. I mean, that is just next-level architectural brilliance.
We have journeyed through millennia today, moving all the way from plaster-coated skulls to wind-defying mosques. But this incredible explainer of Anatolia's evolution leaves us with one thrilling question to ponder. If this one peninsula has already yielded the world's first swords, the origins of modern urban grids, and the blueprints of global faiths, what lost innovations are still waiting quietly beneath the soil, ready to completely change our understanding of human history all over again? Thanks so much for learning with me today. I'll see you in the next one.